In the summer of 1912, crews hired by the state of Pennsylvania walked into some of the most valuable hardwood forest in America carrying axes and began cutting down perfectly healthy trees. Thousands of them, sound trees worth real money, felled along a straight line running north to south across the middle of the Commonwealth. The men swinging those axes were not vandals. They had legal authority, $500,000 behind them, and the honest belief that they were saving this tree by killing part of it. They were 8 years too late, and the line they were cutting was in the wrong place. Inside a single human lifetime, 4 billion of these trees would be dead across 200 million acres of forest from Maine to Mississippi. It is still the largest forest catastrophe recorded on this continent, and almost nobody alive has seen one of these trees standing at full size. This is the American chestnut. Welcome to nature's lost vault. 12 years before those crews arrived, in October of 1900, a family in Patrick County, Virginia, walked into the woods behind their farm with burlap sacks and came out carrying more food than they could hold. They planted nothing, watered nothing, and paid no one. The nuts were lying ankle deep on the forest floor, and they were lying there again the next October, and the one after that. Those sacks became cash at the country store. The owner carted them down the gravel road to the rail depot at Stewart, and within days they were roasting on street corners in Richmond and Philadelphia and New York. Whatever the family left behind, the hogs ate. Farmers turned their pigs loose into the woods for a month or two every fall and let them fatten at no cost whatsoever. As one mountain farmer put it, it did not cost a cent to raise chestnuts or hogs in those days, and the people had money and meat on the table. Across the eastern forest, 1 in every 4 hardwood trees was an American chestnut. In parts of the southern Appalachians, the ratio ran closer to 1 in 2. They grew 100 feet tall and 13 feet across, and in early summer, the ridges turned white with their flowers, so thick that travelers wrote that the mountains looked snowed on in July. The reason those nuts were always there comes down to timing. Oaks and beeches flower early and get caught by late frost, so their crops swing wildly from year to year. Chestnuts bloomed in early summer after the frost danger had passed, which produced a heavy crop nearly every single autumn. In 1911, one railroad station in West Virginia shipped 155,000 pounds of chestnuts north to the cities. And the wood was just as useful as the nuts. Straight-grained, light, and loaded with enough tannin to resist rot for decades in open weather, it went into railroad ties, telegraph poles, fence rails, shingles, church pews, pianos, and coffins. Appalachians called it the cradle-to-grave tree. In 1909, the industry valued standing chestnut in the United States at more than $20 million. So how does a country lose all of that in 40 years? It starts with something nobody was watching. In 1876, a nurseryman on Long Island imported Japanese chestnut trees for the ornamental market. Over the next 30 years, thousands more Asian chestnuts came through American ports. Nobody inspected them, because there was no law requiring anyone to inspect them. Those Asian trees had lived alongside a fungus called Craphonectria parasitica for millions of years and had grown tolerant of it. The American chestnut had never met it. In the summer of 1904, a forester named Herman Merkel noticed the chestnuts on the grounds of the New York Zoological Park in the Bronx, splitting open and weeping orange cankers. He called in William Murrell, a mycologist from the New York Botanical Garden, who identified the fungus and said plainly that it would kill every chestnut tree in the country. Colleagues told him he was being hysterical. He was not. The fungus moved 20 to 50 miles a year on wind, rain, birds, and insects, entering through any scratch in the bark and producing an acid that strangled the tree from the trunk outward. And here is where a natural disaster turned into a government one. For the first 10 years after Merkel's discovery, the federal government spent about $165,000 in total on the problem. That is the entire national response to a pathogen dismantling a quarter of the eastern forest. Pennsylvania, watching its own timber die, went its own way and created a Chestnut Tree Blight Commission in 1911 with authority to enter private property and cut. The plan was a barrier zone, that line of felled, healthy trees west of the Susquehanna, built on the theory that a fire break would stop a fungus the way it stops a fire. The commission spent more than $500,000. By the time the crews were in the field, the fungus had already been recorded west of the river. The commission was shut down in 1914. And the law that would have mattered most, the first federal act requiring the inspection of imported nursery stock, took effect in October of 1912. 36 years after the first shipment of Japanese chestnuts, and 8 years after Merkel named the thing they had brought in with it. Now, in fairness, hindsight makes all of this look stupider than it was. No one in 1911 had ever watched an introduced forest pathogen behave this way, because nothing had ever behaved this way here before. There was no textbook, and even with everything we know now, there is no realistic method those crews could have used that would have worked, because you cannot build a fence against something that travels on the wind and on the feet of birds. The real failure was not the bad plan. It was keeping the bad plan going for 3 more years after the evidence said it had already failed, and spending 3 decades importing infected trees with nobody at the dock even looking. By 1920, the fungus had crossed the Appalachians. By the start of the Second World War, the American chestnut was functionally extinct across its entire range, and the subsistence economy that ran on it went with it. Susan Frankel, who wrote the definitive history of the tree, found that mountain families did not talk about it the way people talk about timber. They talked about it the way you talk about a relative. They kept photographs of the particular tree they walked to every autumn, and when the trees started dying, they wept over them. But the fungus makes one mistake. It kills the trunk, and it does not kill the roots. All across the eastern United States, chestnut stumps kept pushing up new shoots, growing for years until the fungus found them and cut them back again. Hundreds of millions of those root systems are alive underground right now, and every one is an intact copy of the original genetics, still trying, still waiting for something to change. That is the material the American Chestnut Foundation has worked with for 40 years, crossing American trees with blight-resistant Chinese chestnuts and breeding the offspring back toward American form. The slow pace was not for lack of effort, and there was one long detour. A transgenic tree called Darling 58 consumed more than a decade of work and enormous public attention, until December of 2023, when the foundation withdrew support after the field trees grew poorly, tolerated the fungus less than promised, and turned out to be a different variety than everyone believed. They published the failure and changed direction, which is more than the commission ever did. And the new direction worked. In February of 2026, the journal Science published a paper led by Jared Westbrook, Director of Science at the Foundation, working with Virginia Tech, Clemson, and the Hudson Alpha Institute for Biotechnology. Using genome sequencing from thousands of hybrid trees, they showed that blight resistance can be predicted from DNA alone, before a seedling ever meets the fungus in a field. The method is called recurrent genomic selection, and it collapses breeding cycles that used to take years into a decision made in a laboratory. Westbrook expects the next generation to carry roughly twice the resistance of the current population, while holding about 75% American chestnut ancestry, and to start producing restoration seed in quantity within the next decade. You do not have to wait for that decade. The Dunstan chestnut, a hybrid developed by Dr. Robert Dunstan, is the most widely planted chestnut in America, carries strong blight resistance, and bears nuts in 3 to 5 years anywhere from Maine to East Texas. If you want the original genetics and the longer game, the American Chestnut Foundation offers wild-type American seed and improved hybrid seed to its members every spring, and its state chapters often offer seedlings on top of that. A century ago, this country sent men into the woods with axes to save this tree, and cut down healthy chestnuts along a line the fungus had already crossed. You can put one back in the ground this season for the price of a tank of gas. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault. The next vault opens soon.